A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away.
Welcome to Panel Up, your monthly pop culture panel. I'm John Campbell.
And I am Mike Ergoni.
Back again for another month. I think we were off last month because, some months there's not anything that we feel the need to talk about.
Nothing happened. Move along.
And then for a long time, nothing happened. A
horrible peace broke out.
Yeah. It was just, there was a tumbleweed going through pop culture, and we were just like, yep.
Sometimes the recording schedules and what is actually coming out do not align, because it turns out a lot of the mass media that is released these days don't consult us.
No, they don't, and that's a big problem. They need
really
to write your
comment
about that. Basically, we were waiting for this month's topic, right? Because we were watching Daredevil all last month, and then going like, well, when this wraps up, we'll talk about it.
We were in a Daredevil holding pattern.
Yeah, so that was sort of the thing about that. But before we get to our main topic, we are recording this right smack dab in the middle of Star Wars Celebration, as we are essentially a Star Wars podcast, 90% of the time. We thought we might talk about, because we don't have a ton to react to, but at least some of the big announcements of things. The biggest being that we actually have Star Wars movies coming out, allegedly.
I don't think they exist.
So they tell us, right?
Look, I've been around the galaxy. I've seen a lot of strange things, but movies released in theaters ain't one of them.
It has been 6 years since we last had a Star Wars movie out.
I don't remember. 7. Yeah, I think it was more like 8, John, personally, but that's just me.
Oh, right. Yeah, because that's right. There's that one that we're contractually not allowed to talk about. But
God,
we're actually
I've been seeing more and more people like sticking up for that film in discussion circles online. I know, but like every time I do, I like am forced to have the intrusive thought of like, should I give Rise of Skywalker another shot? And then like the rest of my subconscious is like, no, you fool, stop it.
No, that one I didn't. I had no illusions that was good. That was just like, nope, swing and a miss. Knew that on coming out of the theater. That was not like no, that thing's a disaster.
You didn't have that 2-week settling period like Phantom Menace, where it's like, wait, hold on, was that a bad movie?
Yeah, no. As I was just telling somebody the other day, that I've watched Dark Knight Rises like 10 times to decide I don't like it. But I had to be like, no, how is that possible? And so I just kept watching it. Yeah, I'm like, this is not possible. It's not good. Although
Turns
it's
out,
better.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than Rise of Skywalker. But anyway, we're gonna put that aside because we got new movies coming next summer. The one that I do think it's very funny that the first movie we're going to get is just the movie of the show that was already successful. All the stuff they tried to develop, and it just ended up with like, I don't know, Mandalorian movie.
Here's the thing about mass media and production companies and all of this stuff, right? They're constantly veering towards what they know works, or they think they know works, right?
No.
So, The Mandalorian took everyone by surprise. I don't think anyone was expecting for it to get as big as it did.
Right, especially because the weird thing about that in conjunction with the Rise of Skywalker is it kind of overshadowed Rise of Skywalker. People were like,
absolutely did. Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of the franchise, it's actually probably best that it did, because it did cushion the blow of Rise of Skywalker. It's like, well, hey, there's a Star Wars thing we like happening at the same time.
The wild part was when that first season was airing, and like the Force healing happens in that show, and then the next week it happens in the movie with no explanation, and everyone's just like squinting at the film going like, okay, I guess they did it in the show last week. So sure.
They did just under the radar. They made this a part of the universe,
right?
but we're getting the now titled Mandalorian and Grogu
What do you think of that title? Because I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like, obviously, they're tying into the IP, right? Like, The Mandalorian is the thing people know. But, like, I don't know. Like, obviously, they're going for a lone wolf and cub thing because that's the whole premise of the show.
And Grogu sell tickets. People love that little guy.
Right, but is the name... Like, obviously, they can't call the movie The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. But that would be the more recognizable title.
Well, because Jon Favreau gets a little irked if you call him Baby Yoda, apparently, from what I've heard.
It's too mimetic. Like you can't get away from it.
Like, if you work on that set and you call him Baby Yoda, you're going to get scowled at by the Favs.
I can't stop him from scowling, but, like, everyone calls the little green guy Baby Yoda.
Yeah, they'd still do, even though it's not his name.
And I'm usually a stickler for these sorts of things, John. I'm just telling it like
I know. I would expect you of all people to be the Grogu, militant.
I guess here's one of the issues with that is this is a character who has yet to say his own name.
Well, and actually, we don't even learn the name until the second season, right?
Right, and that's when Ahsoka basically reads his mind.
Yeah. I mean, because the official name for a long time was the child, right? I mean,
sure.
So it's Favreau always told you we never called him. Nothing official ever said Baby Yoda. That was you guys,
and that is what stuck. I can't help that fact.
Yeah. I mean, no one should call him Baby Yoda in the show because that makes no sense. Because why would Mando call him? Yeah, Ahsoka might, but why would Mando call him Baby Yoda? Mando has no context for Yoda necessarily.
I guess. My point is, you calling the movie The Mandalorian and Grogu, like, sets up this, like, pair kind of two-hander. Right.
Yeah.
But I think mass audiences, for the most part, are going to go, who the hell's Grogu? Like, and once they see the trailer and know, like, oh, Grogu is the Baby Yoda.
I mean, people still call him Baby Yoda. I don't know if people are unfamiliar with Grogu. I don't know. Every one of those fucking plushes they buy has Grogu written on it.
Maybe.
But the Mandalorian will sell the tickets to those who don't know who Grogu is.
Sure.
And the Mandalorian has also come... They know who travels with the Mandalorian, so I'm not too worried about that keeping people away. And I guess they couldn't just call The Mandalorian the movie.
They coulda. I'm glad they didn't, but they coulda.
They could have called it Mandalorian the Motion Picture, which I still think was the boldest move of Star Trek. This ain't a movie. This is a motion picture, sir.
Mm-hmm. Or they could have called it The Mandalorian Chronicles or The Mandalorian Saga or whatever.
Well, a couple things we learned from what they showed. They showed some footage, which you watched a shaky, camera phone. I didn't because I just hate watching stuff like that. It's not any kind of ethical thing for me. I can't stand it.
And it is an ethical thing for me, but it is me consciously working against my own personal ethics to be like, more.
Yeah. But I did see some of the photos. Very exciting. We knew Sigourney Weaver was in the movie, but to actually see her in an X-Wing flight suit, very cool.
We got a little bit of an action sequence where the Mandalorian is like fighting his way through the interior of an AT-AT that was rad. We got him walking alongside Zeb from Rebels. This continuing, of course, the tradition that everything in the like kind of modern Star Wars area is basically a sequel to Rebels. If you haven't watched Rebels, go watch Rebels.
Yeah, Rebels has become very important. I just saw, not that he's specific to Rebels, he's also in Clone Wars, obviously. I saw Jim Cummings, who does the voice of Hondo, the other day going, oh yeah, I just did mocap for a live action. Oh wait, am I supposed to talk about that?
Well, and on the video game side of news, they did at Star Wars Celebration announce the maybe last DLC for Star Wars Outlaws, which is going to be a very Hondo-focused DLC. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
So many stories I could tell you. So many of them too.
Yeah. Hondo, by the way, I think a lot done for his popularity by his being the main character of that Millennium Falcon ride at Disneyland.
Oh, hey, look, anytime Hondo Ohnaka can greet me to a location, I'm a happy man.
Welcome there. Yeah. But very exciting there. Oh, also the reveal of the villain of the movie being Rata the Hutt.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not he's like the main antagonist of the film, we'll see.
Well, one of the central antagonists is the son of Jabba the Hutt.
who is also jacked.
Yep.
As is often a refrain on here, like, hey, go read the comics. Like, this is a character that's popped up from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing always with the modern Star Wars, they pick and choose stuff from the thing. You know, when fans get upset about the elimination of the expanded universe stuff, it's like that a lot of the good ideas from that still find their way in, maybe in a different capacity, but like, or the comics or anything like that. They're very, guys like Favreau, Filoni, the people behind these movies and stuff, are very cognizant of what other people are doing in Star Wars, and will go, hey, that's a good idea.
And look, you might call him Rod of the Hutt, but I'll always know him as the name that Ahsoka gave him when they rescued him on Christophsis, and that's Stinky.
I do remember that.
That is the plot of the original Clone Wars movie that got released in theaters.
We saw it.
It is,
and I was like,
not indicative of the rest of the show.
No, because I saw that one, oh boy, and then didn't watch a lot of the show for a while because I was like, yikes, I don't need that on a weekly basis. They turned it around. Spoiler, they turned it around. Looks cool. I mean, look, this one is the probably easiest sell of the bunch, right? Because it's a known quantity.
We know what it is. We know what we like. It's gonna be like debatable how much Pedro Pascal is actually in the film, but we'll see.
Somewhat, though, based on they're actually he's at least in the suit somewhat. Unlike the last season of the show where they talked about he was never in the suit in season 3.
Mm-hmm. Which, look, if you can make a whole character where the primary actor you pay to be that character doesn't have to be there, I'm sure it's saving somebody a lot of money.
He guy's a busy dude, all I'm saying.
He's busy fighting Galactus, I get it.
He's busy fighting Galactus, he's busy fighting zombies. Jesus Christ, what that guy is up to.
Well, zombie fighting days might be numbered, but that's maybe just a spoiler for The Last of Us Part 2.
Don't spoil things.
Game came out fucking 6 years ago.
There's a show that a lot of people don't know what's going to happen.
All right, fine, whatever.
I
think Scrooge might be turned around by these 3 ghosts. Spoilers.
I'm telling you, I know people who have no idea that that's coming, and it's gonna maybe make them stop watching the show. I'm worried about. It's gonna be tough for people. Anyway, I mean, I'm on board. The Favs is directing, obviously. Cool. I think the bigger mystery is the next movie that was officially announced that we knew was kind of percolating.
Yeah, there is, of course, Star Wars Starfighter. Which we basically got a logo for and nothing else.
And because all of this had been announced but not official, that Sean Levy was directing, that Ryan Gosling was starring, and I had heard the rumblings that it was set after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, this appears to be the first thing set after the Skywalker.
It is set after Rise of Skywalker, but it is not directly continuing that storyline specifically. It's its own thing. Because obviously now, look, man, when your franchise is in trouble, when people have lost faith, you call in Gosling.
But yes, they've set a release date for Memorial Day of 2027. They haven't even started filming this, right?
No, I think they're just about to start filming it.
Okay.
Because they're still casting, I know.
I'm curious if this is some kind of pivot with the stuff they were already developing for that the Rogue Squadron film from. I mean,
certainly the name Starfighter indicates that it's some sort of piloty movie.
Yeah. What if it's just the last Starfighter but with Star Wars?
Do it, man. The rebels have to recruit a really good video game player, Ryan Gosling, to come. Win the whatever. I don't know what they're doing, actually. I mean, because once again, I think one of the biggest questions about that is, I think one of the things, now I have to break our contract a little bit. One of the things that is up for debate, or one of the things that I think that was disappointing about Rise of Skywalker is it didn't end on a very final note.
I mean, insofar as all the bad guys blew up, I guess.
Yeah, but then it just kind of peters out. So I think I have a big question about like what does that universe even look like because they confirmed it's set 5 years after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean the general assumption is Empire go boom, First Order go boom, because conveniently all of the First/Final Order were at Exegol when Big Pappy Palpatine went boom boom. Then they all also go explode. So I think movie end, like, bad guy die, and then good guys left to pick up pieces.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be an interesting thing then to see what, like, okay, well, where is the world at? Because the thing about the end of Return of the Jedi is the Emperor is destroyed, the Empire is crippled, but it's not obliterated. So, whereas, we've had the comics, about, and obviously what the comics have continued and what they're doing now, post Jedi and stuff like that. I have a clear idea, and it's about rebuilding the government. I don't really know what is going to happen, and especially the idea of like what threat is. I'm assuming a handsome, roguish pilot. Maybe
if Ryan Gosling's playing him, probably.
Yeah. Oh, he's so handsome and roguish. I do love that guy. I will say I am sold on this because I love Sean Levy. I love Ryan Gosling. I love Jonathan Tropper, who's writing the script, who's a fantastic novelist and TV writer, who also wrote The Adam Project for Sean Levy.
Totally. This feels like a good, like, clean slate start to, like, you don't even need to make this part of the initial, like, larger saga, and if that's not the goal, great. If that can arise out of this, also great.
A standalone adventure set in the world of Star Wars is the thing we keep actually asking for, I feel like. And actually, I think Mandalorian has done, if it's something in that way that Mandalorian has done that, right, where it's like, it bumps up against, all those things kind of bump up against what's going on post-Jedi, but that's not the main focus.
Right. I think there is a big kind of opportunity here to reset the table on the Star Wars universe and like creating a new status quo that isn't like trapped in this combat between rebellion and tyrannical power. Though these days that might be a good backdrop for a setting, not gonna lie.
Yeah, but they need to find a new way into that, right? Because one of the big criticisms of the sequel trilogy is like you basically just reset the board to look exactly like it did when it started.
Well, and reskinned everything, so it's like Rebellion is Resistance, Empire is First Order, but they're effectively the same thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I do like that Rian Johnson was just like, nah, I fucking call them rebels. I don't care.
Because that's what they were.
They'll always be rebels to me.
Yes. There is this interesting fact about the sequel trilogy era, insofar as like Star Wars as a narrative construct is concerned, in that we have now, post like Disney acquisition, a big breadth of, we've called it scaffolding in the past, or like a lot of like fill-in stories or what have you about what's filling in the details of specific eras of Star Wars in the prequel and original trilogy eras. There isn't really we're just starting to get more and more of it now. But like we've had the Poe Dameron comic that sort of filled in some of this. We had the Kylo Ren book that's ongoing, the like Legacy of Vader book that is kind of filling in some of these gaps. There's shows like Resistance, which like do a half-hearted job because they're so disconnected from everything else, though.
Yeah, I think Resistance was one of the everybody was kind of like, nah.
Yeah. We don't have a ton of stuff filling in the details of like precisely what's happening in the galaxy. So like at the end of Force Awakens, when they say the Republic has been destroyed by the Starkiller base, like what that even means is a little unclear. And by the time
we know nothing about it.
By the time we're getting to The Last Jedi and our scrappy band of rebels are on the run, it's like, so there's nobody else out there in the galaxy, and like by the time we get to Rise of Skywalker, it really seems that way.
But then everybody in the galaxy shows up at the end of it. But once again,
which made
I don't
it so
know
confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, it further adds to like, well, I understand that's Lando and that's Wedge, but like, who's everybody else? I don't know.
Yeah. No idea.
Yeah, so I do think that's both a hindrance but potentially a positive for Sean Levy, because as you're saying, he's still, even though we had those 3 movies, kind of has a little bit of a blank slate to start over here. Like, I don't feel like he has a lot of heavy lifting to do coming out of Rise of Skywalker.
No, if anything, it's just like a quick flick of the tablecloth and suddenly it's clear again.
And if anything, if this movie goes well, like you're saying, and I think that's true, this will now become the status quo that they start pulling from.
Yeah, and obviously we're still dealing with the Mandalorian era of stuff. We're still dealing with like Thrawn and all that stuff, and that leads us more into what the status quo of the sequel trilogy is, right?
Because the Ahsoka season 2 is just about to start shooting, according to Dave Filoni. Like next week, start shooting from the sound of it. They did confirm Hayden Christensen to return, which I'm very curious in what capacity Anakin Skywalker will play in that. I mean, obviously beyond just being a Force ghost.
I was going to say Force ghost.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how much that plays into that? Is that going to be like a guiding force for Ahsoka going forward now?
I mean, my hope is that he's a guiding force for Sabine. I think that's the more interesting like route to go, is like she contacts Anakin to learn more about the like temptations of the dark side.
Yeah. We're definitely excited about that, because I think Ahsoka was, unless you were just being an asshole, pretty unanimously liked by people.
I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka's the thing. I know you and I come at Star Wars from different angles, but like one of the best things for my Star Wars is Space Wizard soap opera, and that was peak that in that show.
Yeah, I mean, and I enjoyed it because it was a well done Space Wizard soap opera.
Right.
That's not inherently the part of Star Wars I like the most, but if you do it well, and then I'm in.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was great. Last thing they announced on the like movie and TV front is the Darth Maul animated series.
Maul Shadow Lord. Yeah, we had Sam Witwer show back up. Apparently he is outside of the voice just like heavily involved in like producing and writing the show as well, which heartens me because that guy loves Star Wars.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that he's, this is not just a gig to him.
Right. Maul is a lifestyle for Sam Witwer.
Yeah. It's a little bit like we'll talk about it later when we get to Daredevil, but it's very much the way Bernthal talks about the Punisher as well, and he's now writing the Punisher special and stuff like that. These guys wholeheartedly, embrace these characters and care very much about them, and are like, I have a feeling are going, even before this, is just going like, no, Maul wouldn't do that, or Frank wouldn't do that, or,
Right, exactly. So, yeah, this show is going to fill in the gaps like we're talking about with other stuff. This is going to presumably bridge the gap between where we left off Maul at the end of Clone Wars and where we find him at the, like, season 2 of Rebels, which is this kind of broken hermit at the edge of the galaxy.
Right.
So this is him building his criminal empire, because the only other slice of Maul we get in that time period is his brief little scene he gets in Solo, where he's the head of Crimson Dawn. And
he ignites his lightsaber for no reason other than to make people go, ooh.
That's reason enough for me.
I know. I remember. Woohoo! I think you made the Pillsbury Doughboy sound?
I'm almost certain I did, yes.
Actually, but you want to talk about, this is very much my jam. If Maul is building his criminal empire, now we're in the world of Star Wars I love the most.
Right. Though I think we're gonna get a lot of crime stuff, a lot of underworld stuff, because that is also recently announced, though not at Star Wars Celebration, was the Tales of the Underworld show, following in the tradition of the other Tales shows which have
been really good, which have all been really good.
Yeah, we're going to be getting some Cad Bane and some Asajj Ventress stuff in that show. Looking forward to it.
Love that.
Wouldn't be surprised if both of those characters showed up in the Maul show, honestly.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. No, so that'll be exciting.
But the thing that they teased with the Maul show is that we are going to get a little bit of Space Wizard soap opera stuff, because it looks like Maul's going to be taking a new apprentice in this show, and it may or may not be Darth Talon, the red skinned Twi'lek of sexy Dark Horse Comics fame. She was a big character in the Star Wars Legacy book that I know we're both a fan of.
Love Star Wars Legacy, and really always one of those things where I'm like, you guys really want to wipe the slate clean? Maybe do, if not a direct adaptation of Legacy, something in that vein. That was a very smart comic to get away from just a lot of the weight of the universe.
I mean, that book has its own like baggage issues because it's also dealing with a lot of like Dark Horse comic continuity in. That's
what I'm saying. I'm not saying a direct, but something in that approach of anytime you go really far forward or really far back, because they did. There was like also a half-hearted thing I saw in the Star Wars movie panel. It was just like, oh yeah, that James Mangold Jedi movie that's still happening. Taika Waititi still technically developing something. It's like we're also still like all the things you've read about are still possibly happening. We'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the anytime you go really far forward or really far back, you just sort of free yourself from the shackles of stuff. Yes, in the case of that, Dark Horse had its own, which we'll get to someday on this show.
Oh yeah. On the video game front, we had, like I mentioned, Star Wars Outlaws is getting another big DLC. Yep. We also had announced and a trailer released for Star Wars Zero Company, which is like a tactical, isometric, kind of strategic RPG a la XCOM or your Final Fantasy Tactics, that sort of thing. And couldn't be more excited. I love that genre of video games. I love Star Wars. This seems like a match made in heaven.
Those are a little slow for my taste, but that's,
Well, that's because you have no patience for tactical and mindful RPGs, John.
Run and gun, baby.
But yeah, from what I've seen of that trailer, it's set in the Clone Wars. We have an interesting cast of characters, of course, to make up our shadow organization of Black Ops mercenaries. We've got a clone trooper. We've got a Jedi. It looks like maybe a Padawan without a master. I don't know. He's got the little dangly charm thing off of his helmet.
Okay.
We've got an Umbaran, which is like a species that we saw briefly in the Clone Wars, in one of the best like story arcs, which is the Shadows of Umbra, where you have Pong Krell, that like Jedi that kind of turns evil and starts sacrificing clones for no reason.
Right.
And of course, we have our scoundrel in a trench coat with a handgun.
Well, you have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost required.
Speaking of that to a certain extent, on the toy front, which of course is where my interest lies, and very much on brand for what we've been covering on the show. Oh, folks, finally coming to the Black Series, 1-Rendar.
Oh, God.
I'm throwing it in the chat here, Gergoni. Check it out. Rendar is getting a Black Series figure. There he is, in all of his shoulder-padded glory.
Yeah, that is a thing that exists.
There he is.
What do you think the face model is on that? Because I honestly have no idea. It looks like a concrete cinder block is the base they used for the chin.
I guess he's a little John Cena-y.
Yeah, a little bit.
But with 70s Harrison Ford hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway, what if he chiseled a man out of a cliff face? That's Rendar.
Yeah. Do you love Han Solo but wish he was more of a beefcake? Meet Rendar. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to buy this by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was fun since
you say that until you find it on deep discount at a con, John.
Oh, yeah. If he's in a bin at a GameStop, I might pick him up.
I'm just saying, there's going to be like a buy two, get three free booth at a con somewhere.
I guess Dash. Yeah, I guess I need another one. Dash. I've bought my 18th Han Solo, but I guess throw on that Dash if you're just gonna give him away.
We all know what the cons look like on Sundays.
Yeah. Oh, I've been like, please, for the love of God, just take this. I don't want to pack it up. No, Sundays when I do my toy shopping, sir.
Of course,
I'm gonna throw one more in here into the chat, Gergoni, just because I think a Black Series figure you might be more interested in is the Black Series is doing figures from the Vision series.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I don't know how this is showing up on the YouTube. No, it's looking awful on the YouTube, so I apologize to our YouTube viewers.
No. You can look it up, folks. But yeah,
That's
the
of
Ronin.
the Ronin. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I love the. It looks like it's got a big thing they're doing in a lot of figures now is putting the wiring in the capes and cloaks so you can actually pose them to be flowing.
The Ronin is one of those characters who, like Boba Fett, is getting a lot of mileage on just, damn, he looks cool.
He does look rad. He's almost become the poster boy for that series, just because you're like, he's finally just Samurai Jedi.
Yeah.
Dead on.
I mean, he got his own comic book series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what do we know about the character? Rad. He is a badass and is in black and white and has a red lightsaber. That's what we know.
He's an Akira Kurosawa. This is a Toshiro Mifune character.
Yeah, 100%.
Who of course was, as you know, George Lucas's first choice to play Obi-Wan Kenobi. He wanted to.
God, what a world that would have been!
I mean, it would have been a completely different performance, but it would have been awesome.
But
because that guy was everything.
We've had this conversation before, but like, if Toshiro Mifune plays old Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, who plays young Obi-Wan in the prequels? And like, Ken Watanabe is like right up there for me. But...
Ken Watanabe, or the other one would be Hiroyuki Sanada.
Ooh, yeah.
Both.
What a world that would have been.
Yeah, because those are the two guys I think now that have the gravitas and acting range of a Mifune in Japanese cinema. All right. Anything else about Star Wars? I think we can transition over to. I mean,
we're days away from Andor premiering. So
yeah, and the very weird release schedule of Andor that they're going to be releasing 3 episodes at once.
I did not see this.
Yeah, they're really each week we're getting 3 episodes of Andor. So I think if it's what I saw, that'll be next month's episode actually.
Okay. Because as far as I know, they're doing it in like that whole like we're going to do a storyline, then it's going to jump like a couple of years, then another storyline, then jump a couple of years.
It was originally conceived as like a 5-part thing. Or a 5-season thing, and so instead they're doing season 2 is 4 seasons in 1.
Yeah, from what IMDb is telling me right now, we're getting a chunk of episodes April 22nd, a chunk on April 29th, then May 6th, then May 13th.
It's 4 weeks, 12 episodes in 4 weeks, so that will be our May. Well, May will be interesting. We may have to do a twofer because also we have Thunderbolts coming out.
Ooh. Look, so we got a month full of naughty boys.
I love it. That's what I like. little scamps, little violent scamps causing trouble. I am very excited for Thunderbolt. As anyone who knows me would know, I'm a huge fan of that Marvel comic, of course, because it's bad guys.
Yeah, part of me is just like, man, where's Zemo as Citizen V? But that's just me.
Yeah. It looks super fun though. We've got the Red Guardian, and we'll talk all about that next month. But let's segue into what we're talking about this month, which is I think I have to check my notes here. The most my jam of anything Marvel's ever made.
Oh yeah, I was watching this show, and they at the very end of the credits it said, "And a special thanks to John Campbell for the reason we made this show."
Yeah. Grim dark noir. Interesting. Bold choice. No, look. Obviously, spoilers abound if you haven't watched Daredevil: Born Again. What's wrong with you? Number one, but we're going to be spoiling it, of course. So just blanket statement on that going forward. Yeah, look, Daredevil has pretty much always been my favorite Marvel comic, and this is just. I mean, it almost feels like, well, of course, because I love the Netflix show, but I think this might be better than the Netflix show, in as much as they are, by coming to the MCU, they are unshackled, not just by very consciously existing within it, as opposed to the sort of tap dancing of the Netflix, like, maybe, sort of, kind of, but something that I've seen the actors talk about, not Netflix, but Marvel Television was not so free with the cash. They were like, "Can you do this cheaper?" This does feel like.
I saw a reaction online and someone being like, "Oh, and now that he's in the MCU, Daredevil can be more acrobatic and Stephen DeKnight, who's like the original showrunner of Daredevil, was like, yeah, it's because we couldn't afford for him to do that.
It's amazing. I've heard a lot of the actors talk about this. I mean, it makes sense, but they weren't really obviously openly saying that when the show was on Netflix. But now they're sort of going like, oh yeah, everything was a fight for them to go like, that's expensive. Do you need this? Can you cut this? Could this be smaller?
Does he have to fight ninjas?
Yeah, sort of thing where it's just like, I don't know, the grappling hook swinging, that seems expensive. And then they've talked to Cox and D'Onofrio talk about it's so weird. Disney just says yes to everything. They're like, yeah, do it, man. What do you need for that shot? We got it.
Yeah.
And so it does really feel like, man, he is the comic book Daredevil come to life, even more so. And but what's great is carried by, they already had the right actors. They already had the right tone.
Yep.
It was just, it's a larger canvas to play on. And man, did I love this. I mean, once again,
that is my caveat going into this is, at least in terms of like how I go about recommending this to people is, if you like the Netflix Daredevil, you're going to love this. There's basically, it's 1-to-1. And like you said, it's maybe 1-to-1 plus. Like,
right,
this feels freed in a way that those shows didn't.
It's that and more. It's all that and more.
But like the tone is basically the same. All the actors are back that you love. The character dynamics are all good. Everything is heightened to have a little bit more of a superhero air to it that the Netflix shows definitely play down to their detriment in a lot of cases where I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think the least amount on Daredevil, but certainly as they went forward, very much so.
See, and I think the like least amount consciously on Iron Fist. Like they never put him in they put him in the suit in one flashback.
No, I'm sorry. I meant the Daredevil was the least damaged by that. Iron Fist was the most damaged by it. No question.
I would say like Jessica Jones is maybe the least damaged by it. Though even she is held back by the idea that like they didn't really do the whole like she was once a superhero thing.
As that went along, particularly those seasons 2 and 3 of Jessica Jones are rough.
Yeah.
Rough stuff. Luke Cage, I think Daredevil and Luke Cage were both really good. I actually really like both seasons of Luke Cage as well.
I have mixed feelings on the back half of the first season of Luke Cage because they killed their best bad guy.
Yeah, but they still had Alfred. They're still good.
Yeah.
But this was, and of course, the thing that everybody knows about this, or at least was widely reported, right, was that this show was going to be something different, and then at a certain point, they halted production and rethought the direction they were going in for Daredevil Born Again to, if anything, too closer to the Netflix series. Because the original idea was this would be entirely a separate thing.
Yeah. I think, or at least the vibe I got is like, I could kind of see the stitches. Like, there are bits and pieces of this that feel like, oh, the intention here was to separate this Matt Murdock from the Matt Murdock we knew from the Netflix shows.
It still feels
he has a different supporting cast. He has this different kind of like modus operandi and way of living that like made me go like, oh, this feels like a different thing. And they work it in seamlessly enough in this show, but you can kind of see where the scars are.
Yeah, I don't think to the detriment of anything though, particularly, but there's no question that it does feel like a sequel to not just season 4 of Daredevil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's continuing, but it definitely does feel like, Matt's got a whole new thing now. Right. Because, of course, they bring in Kirsten McDuffie from the comics, who's now his legal partner, and the subsequent characters that come with that, like Clark Johnson's investigator character. Yeah. And everything that comes with that. Because one of the things I didn't know until maybe about halfway through the season, watching an interview with the showrunner, was they didn't. I had just assumed they threw out everything that was shot, but he said they actually still used basically everything that was originally shot, but massaged it and added to it and changed context on stuff, shot new scenes, placed it in. So they are still working from this. They shot 6 episodes of it.
And I think that totally tracks. I think the middle 6 episodes of this, basically all the Muse stuff, feels like it can kind of be excised from the plot, and the overarching like Wilson Fisk v. the City of New York plot is definitely like what was added on to this, and all the Muse stuff in the middle feels like what was there originally.
I mean, some of that is there. I know the big thing that was added was the Punisher cops. That was all.
Yeah.
That's
again part of the Wilson Fisk v. City of New York plot.
Yeah, Wilson Fisk was still going to be the mayor. I don't know exactly what direction they were going to go in. I do like the way that they tied the Muse stuff into, because the amount of people I saw be like, they did him dirty, man. And I'm just like, okay, I've read the Muse comics. I'm not sure he's a beloved character. Where like,
isn't it just one arc?
He's in it sporadically, but yeah, basic, because most of this season in its entirety is taken from the Charles Soule Daredevil run, which has all the Muse stuff. But yeah, he's not. Yeah, people acting like, why would you kill off the most beloved Daredevil? It's like, not kind of a side villain even in the comics. I mean, I don't want to completely downplay. He was really cool. But it's not like when this whole idea about they did our boy dirty, and he's like, he was no one's boy, you guys.
He's no Bullseye, he's no the Owl, he's no Elektra,
and I like the way that I don't. Once again, I don't know where exactly what was seeded or what the plan was with him originally, but it does feel like it is the thing that gives Fisk the excuse, right, to go more authoritarian. Yeah. So the way that they seeded into their story, and I don't know. Once again, he was still going to be mayor in the original version, so I don't know where they were planning to take that without the Punisher cop stuff. I know that Bernthal, because they offered Bernthal to come back for the original version, and he flat out refused because he was like, I don't like what you guys are doing with Frank, and I won't participate.
I'm curious to know what turns they were choosing to do.
Yeah, but there was something about whatever the original take that they asked him to do. He's like, I will not damage the character like this. Yeah, I don't know, but and actually, then they took the Punisher cop stuff is sort of a grander extension of if people have read Matthew Rosenberg's Punisher arc, which has cops wearing the skull. It comes from that. Which I like to because people go like, wow, what a smart thing for the show to do. I'm like, well, the comics did do it. They are taking from that. It is really smart to include it in this.
And this is also taking all the Fisk Mayor stuff is a little bit from Devil's Reign, right? And
yeah, that's all from that came from because Charles Soule had him elected mayor, and then that continued into the Zdarsky stuff with Devil's Reign. So yeah, they're pulling from a lot of probably the last 8 to 10 years of Daredevil comics. A lot of that is in here.
Which, as far as like adaptations go, this is like pretty quick turnaround on an adaptation of a thing.
Well, I think, look, there's no denying what inspired Charles Soule to write the Mayor Fisk storyline. And unfortunately, for some of us who are on this show, that's still a reason to tell the story.
Yes. Turns out corrupt politicians and people who are megalomaniacal with their power is an evergreen topic these days.
It's not a one-to-one. Fisk is not Trump, It's not like, oh my God, they're just making it so clear. But it's discussing authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can
the way systems can be turned and co-opted by strongmen and by demagogues.
I gotta say, on that note, D'Onofrio obviously always just amazing. Could never have asked for a better actor to play this part. He takes it to a whole nother level. I feel like this season with this whole push-pull, because obviously the major theme of the season, and I'm not this is not a great read, it's pretty much stated, right, is you can't run from what you are.
And what you are infects everything you attempt to do. Even if your stated goals are noble, is if what you are at your core is a egomaniacal monster, there's no getting away from that sometimes.
The police commissioner, right before he dies, the most horrific death that the MCU has ever portrayed, I think.
Does this top the whole like decapitation via car door thing from original season of Daredevil?
Yeah, you see way more of this. You actually see this guy's head get squished like a grape.
His mandible goes flying to the left while skull bits are flying to the right.
I was like, God damn, you guys are not holding back. When they're saying like, if anything, it's more violent than Netflix show. I'm like, God, you're right. Holy shit, I can't believe they put that. But right before that happens to him, I do like his line about like, you never stop being the kingpin because you can't.
I mean, look, that's pretty obvious from pretty early on in the season once we find out Vanessa's boy toy's in a cage.
Well, yeah, also the how quickly, as soon as there's a problem, he turns to like, you have a daughter, don't you? I know about your family. Like immediately he starts threatening people. It's just like whatever intentions he may have, and I do believe there is some level of sincerity to him thinking I can save this city. As soon as anything is a problem, he immediately takes the gangster approach to dealing with it.
The sincerity comes from the egomaniacal part, though, right?
Yes.
It's I can save this city. That's the important thing. Is that me is the person who can do it, and nobody else. And if anyone disagrees with me, I feel sorry for them because they're obviously wrong because they're not me. Right,
and then the whole Vanessa storyline, which that was a big thing, was originally they had cast a different actress as Vanessa, and then when they went back around to reshoot stuff, they brought back the original actress, which I'm so glad they did. I let Zur, who people may also know played Superman's mother Lara in Man of Steel.
If you say so.
She did. I can confirm. Anyway, she's great, and she has much more to do than she did in previous seasons. But her whole thing basically about, oh my God, you know, she never left the Kingpin side of it, right? And
this is a slightly different take on Vanessa than we've seen in comics. There have been like she is a party to the criminal enterprise bits of her before, but mostly she in the comics is used as like a tragic counterpoint to justify certain things that the Kingpin does. Like a lot of the times when you've seen her in other adaptations, she's been like comatose or dead, or like she is something that drives Wilson Fisk.
And the Frank Miller comic where she's living as part of the underground sewer homes. Weird.
Yeah, she's living with the Morlocks. It's fine.
Basically, yeah. And Matt Murdock's like, look at what would become of your beloved Vanessa. How do you feel now, Wilson?
He's fine.
I love the Frank Miller stuff, but there's some weird shit in there.
Oh, you're saying Frank Miller treats women weirdly in his comics, John?
Well, I will say, actually, to be fair, he didn't do... But I think the character of Dr. Heather Glenn is treated much better in this than what ends up happening during the comics.
I mean, I could say the same for Deborah and Karen Page. like, good Lord, what happened to Karen Page in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see them going that way. And of course, the big thing was none of these characters were going to be part of the original take. There was no Karen Page involvement. The show would have just started and Foggy was already dead. No Bullseye would have been in it.
You think Foggy's really dead? You think he's dead?
Yes.
Because they basically did the same thing in the comic, and he ended up having faked his death.
No, he's dead. I mean, they buried him. Matt heard his heart stop. But
that was the thing in the comics when he died the first time. Was Matt heard his heart stop.
If they bring him back, I would be a little irked. It's so important that he lost him. I mean, here's a chance to be better than the comics, folks.
Okay.
to not just start reviving everybody. I'm just saying. Look, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, and maybe
you say that about Daredevil, the guy who got buried under a building in the Defenders.
Well, nothing can stop the devil. But
avocados at law, John.
Yeah, I know. I have my Nelson and Murdoch mug that I brought for this episode specifically.
Nice.
Bringing you justice without fear. I mean, it's obviously so much of the season is death haunted, though, right? It's a Matt in grief. I know, and full of guilt. What?
Yeah.
The most Catholic superhero full of guilt.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of my complaints about this season has been, and I've talked to you about this already, but like, this is the third consecutive time that this particular iteration of Matt Murdock has gone, I can't be Daredevil anymore. Oh, never mind, I'm Daredevil again. Yeah.
Now, apparently, once again, from what I've heard, is like he may never have put the suit back on in the original version.
That's wild.
It was, I mean, or at least like way later. It was gonna, because the take was, from what I gather, legal courtroom procedural primarily.
And yet you call the show Daredevil.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, once again, I only know like what little bits and pieces have leaked out about it. So maybe someday we'll get the full, I would be so curious to get the full like description of what those episodes were and stuff like that. But obviously enough that made them go, hold up, stop, this is not working.
Yeah, and look, kudos to Marvel Television for being able to like stop midstream and go, let's rethink this approach.
And they brought in Dario, oh boy, God, everyone has a name. Dario Scardapane, who was the showrunner on the Netflix Punisher series, came in to end up showrunning this. And they also brought in Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead to be the main directors, and they had done Moon Knight and Loki with Marvel.
If I had to guess, I would say Sardapene.
Sardapene. Yeah, it's very Italian, and he's great. And like I said, and obviously brought in a lot of the Punisher stuff because he was the guy who did the Punisher show. So
sure.
You know, which doesn't overtake this by any means. In fact, I know there were a lot of people going, "When is the Punisher gonna come back?"
Because let's see, Bernthal's only in 2 episodes.
Yeah, he shows up about like halfway through, and then right at the end.
Yeah, which I thought was the perfect amount.
Oh God, and just because he shows up for number one, obviously. Charlie Cox is amazing, but I feel like when he and those two just crackle on screen together.
Oh, I mean, look, anytime Bernthal can grunt and go, "You think that's right, Red?" Like that's magic.
The big thing I see a lot in the impressions, and it's true, is the like barking that he does as Frank Castle, where he's beyond words rage, right? Mm-hmm. Just it's the best.
Interesting, something I was thinking about while watching this version of The Punisher. Mm-hmm. Comic book Punisher, we pretty, a lot of the time, we see him in the black trench coat with like leather gloves on. Has this Bernthal Punisher ever worn gloves? We've seen him in the trench coat like once.
Well, there's the shot at the end of season 2 where he is like comic book Punisher. That was sort of the last note of that show where which is an amazing shot of
where
him
he's sniping ninjas.
Well, there's that. That's the end of season 2 of Daredevil. I'm talking about the end of season 2 of his own show.
Oh, right.
Where all the criminals gather and he just shows up with the dual machine guns and mowing everybody down. Mm-hmm. And you do see him in the trench coat. Also, you're right at the end of Daredevil season 2. I'm trying to think. Well, he's worn like tactical gloves. Okay. I think he has. He doesn't on the regular, but no, he doesn't. And I know. Shout out to Brendan Jones, who just the other day was going, "When is he going to get the white boots and the white gloves?" And I'm like, never. No, I would be. That would make no sense with this version of the character.
Next, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are going to be wearing the freaking superhero boots and like a onesie. That's never going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I just don't see it. It would just be nonsense to me, especially the way Bernthal plays this character.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that guy wearing white outfits and bodysuits, and who knows? But I would say that's about as impossible as I can imagine. Anyway, he doesn't frequently wear gloves.
It's just, I don't know. That's the thing that struck me watching him this time. But I think it is the perfect amount of Punisher in a Daredevil show.
Well, because their scenes are always so good together, right? I feel like, so much of the finale is a two-hander with them, and I just love them always the conflict of those guys, right? That they are like 90% the same guy.
Except there's the one Frank turns and caps a guy who's already down.
And Jesus, does he lay waste to people in that finale like nobody's business.
Yeah, that assault on Matt's apartment where Punisher bursts in and just starts wrecking dudes.
And I like that, like, a couple times here Matt go like, no, don't, bang, 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 he's just blowing people's brains out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we love seeing the Punisher kill dirty cops.
You do. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I love the whole thing when they're shooting him with the non-lethal rounds at the end.
Who made that call? Who had the gall to be like, we're up against the Punisher, so we should tie one hand behind our backs?
That was the thing, right? Because this guy, the main Punisher cop guy, is the one who's like, I think if I sit him down and explain that we want him to be one of us, he's gonna like be one of our guys.
That was such a mistake. Hamish Allen Headley, who plays Powell throughout this season as like the face of the dirty cops, because he's also the one who's involved in like the trial of White Tiger at the early parts of the season, which God, I love all that stuff too.
All that stuff was great. I love that guy on Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner's the show he's a regular on.
Another weird, gritty, urban crime neo-noir, John?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I'm just saying,
he's got to keep. Well, I watch all the Taylor Sheridan shows over on Paramount, which are all that. And if you're not watching Mobland on Paramount, you should be. It's great.
I just want one that's just called Crime Show.
I do think people have talked about that Landman might be the ultimate Taylor Sheridan title, though. Right, which is just it's just like everybody's always battling over land on those shows. Finally, just made a show called Landman,
and he's a man who needs land.
Billy Bob Thornton's got to get some land. I got to buy this land, man. All right. So anyway, yeah, I but that whole I was gonna say every time he gets hit by one of those like beanbag rounds, just how it just makes him angrier and angrier. And he literally has to be
buried in men to stop him.
And he's still like, you know. And of course, they give us if you're a Punisher fan, the post-credits scene was just to be like, ain't nobody gonna keep Frank Castle in a cage.
Well, look, he's got to get out so he can go do his own one-shot, right?
Yep, which Bernthal's writing.
Yeah, which I am so excited to get just a Punisher mini-movie. Like, that sounds great to me.
Bernthal has described it as a shotgun blast of a story.
Perfect. I honestly, like, especially after Werewolf by Night, I really wish they would do more of that sort of thing.
Those are great. Because it's the equivalent of the one-shot comic book. It's such a great idea. I hope they do more. I was glad to hear they were doing that because I didn't know they were still doing those. Right. So I was very happy to hear that, and they should, because that's a very cool way. And I think Punisher is a character that really works in that, because you can really just focus him into being a gnarly little crime action thing that doesn't have to have the scope of a full season.
Totally. Yeah. And like, honestly, I could see that working for even characters like Moon Knight. I know we want more Moon Knight as a show, but like, we don't necessarily have to have a whole globe-trotting adventure with Moon Knight.
No. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of that'd be a cool way. Also, that's a cool way to test stuff. And I know Finn Jones is like, give me another fucking chance as Iron Fist. And I think we might, based on the rumors I'm hearing about the next season of Daredevil.
I mean, look, when this season ends with Daredevil saying, I need an army, like, there's a short list there, right?
And the rumblings being that, that the Defenders are all coming back next season. I'm like, it really does feel like if they're going to do it, they've given themselves the thing. I gotta call Jessica and Luke and Danny and boy, if
maybe throw a couple of other folks in there. Yeah,
you call Misty Knight and Colleen Wing to give me the go. Boy, there's a special. By the way, I'm available to write if you want Marvel. Give me a Daughters of the Dragon like Marvel special. That'd be nice.
If you go back into our archives over on patreon.com/punchupentertainment or Punch Up Ent, I should say. you can find us discussing that concept like throughout the seasons of Iron Fist and Luke Cage that we're talking about. Like, just give us these two with Daughters of the Dragon. That's all we want, please.
And I think the idea of that being a special would be really cool. The other one, of course, that we always want more of is Heroes for Hire. The one time they did a Luke and it was the best that Danny, I think, in particular was.
Because that was an episode of season 2 of Luke Cage? Yeah.
And they did just a two-hander with them, and I was like, oh, look at how much better Finn Jones is when he has Coulter to play off of.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there you go, there's your show. Come on, but Netflix, it wasn't the right place for it. This is in the right place now.
Yeah,
and I don't blame Netflix. Very clear, Netflix released those shows. They did not make those shows. That was Marvel Television under one Ike
Perlmutter. Yeah.
To be fair, though, I think I say that about everything. If anytime it's like, you know what, fucking Perlmutter's problem. Kind of. If you read about that guy sucks. Anyway, hot take. By the way, Gorgoni, did you recognize Muse Unmasked from something else we've talked about on here?
Unmasked Muse, played by Hunter Doohan, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
He played somebody from Wednesday. I knew that much.
He was the main guy on Wednesday.
He was the hot Hyde, wasn't he? He was like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde monster guy.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him and I was like, oh yeah, there's a handsome 20-something.
Yeah, he was also Bryan Cranston's son on Your Honor, another dark noir crime series I watched.
Of course you did.
So there you go. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what you got to. Yeah, you got to. I want to talk about.
You got to. The rest of us don't have to.
Hey, man, they keep making them. Somebody's watching. It can't just be me. Oh, one guy's watching this. Well, let's keep making it. Anyway, something I want to talk about, the sort of a framing device throughout the whole season, is the addition of BB Urick and the BB Report.
Yeah, I found this interesting. It frames New York in a way. You know, John, really, New York is a character when you think about it.
It is. I mean, the thing about that is it's both true in this and it's a cliche.
Yeah.
Right? That's a cliche, but it's also accurate for this. Like, I hate saying it, but it's true. And I think a lot of that, especially the end of the season, really made me feel that, right? When you saw all the people and sort of this idea of I need an army, not just of superheroes, but the everyday folk of New York. That there's sort of this rallying cry to, like, it can't just be the guy in the mask. Everybody is going to have to turn on Wilson Fisk and be like, no more.
It's that it's encapsulated, like, simply but effectively in the Raimi Spider-Man movies, right? Whether it be you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York, or the
you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah.
The crane thing.
The crane thing.
The crane. One of the best parts of that Andrew Garfield movie.
Sure. But like, or all the people picking him up in the subway thing in Spider-Man 2.
Jesus moment.
Yeah.
And then
Spider-Man died for our sins.
We won't tell anybody. We won't tell anybody. Ugh. You gotta watch those again. Those are really good. Those first two Raimi Spider-Mans are really good.
It's hard to encapsulate the, like, modus operandi of a city's population, right? And that is something that the show does via these interstitial like news segments.
And I love that they're not cameos. We don't know any of these people. These feel like they could just be people that they randomly talk to. I mean, I'm sure they are.
Old man on the bench to be Stan Lee, though.
I think it would have been, obviously, right? It would have been Stan. But like, I was surprised that Frank Miller wasn't one of them.
He could have been like on the bench.
Yeah. I mean, he is right now. He's on a bench planting somewhere right now. No, they did talk about, Charlie Cox talked about he did come to the set one day when they were shooting the finale, and he just said it was pretty crazy for him to be in the full gear, Bernthal in the full Punisher thing, and they're talking to Frank Miller. Like, that's a special day on set.
Totally, yeah. Look, we rag on Frank Miller quite a bit, but like, he did cement like what modern Daredevil is.
Here's the thing.
Basically.
Here's the thing. You can't. I mean, look, the fact that like the last 20 plus years of his career have been either garbage or I feel like he settled into now like most modern Frank Miller stuff is like forgettable. Like like Dark Knight 3 wasn't a disaster, but it kind of just doesn't exist.
It is
or like his Superman Year One. Yeah, but you know that doesn't change the fact that like the guy did at least 5 of the most iconic comics ever written. So that buys him like he's a legend. He can keep making shit, and I can acknowledge I don't want to read it, but it can't taint the legacy fully.
Him and Alan Moore are kind of in that same bucket, right?
Exactly. It's like, well, yeah, but Alan Moore still wrote Watchmen. Like, you know,
yeah, and his Swamp Thing is undeniable.
Oh, it's the best. Like that character is, almost belongs to him. It's one of those. It's like Claremont and X-Men, where it's like he didn't create him. He kind of created what we think of that character being.
Yeah, and the same goes with Frank Miller and Daredevil to a certain extent,
and Batman. Honestly, or at least redefining Batman.
Yeah, for better or worse, depending on who you ask.
Well, going forward, he sort of lost the thread on that, but at least Dark Knight Returns and Year One were so influential that everybody is still pulling from those.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so look, and this show would not exist without Frank Miller.
Yeah, and like I said, him having weird opinions about women in his work, or him like maybe losing the thread on certain characters, is emblematic of Frank Miller.
He's a noir guy, right? And so he plays on a lot of noir tropes, which are not inherently anti-women, but do certainly paint a specific kind of woman.
Or uses them as plot objects.
Yeah, I mean, the femme fatale, obviously we don't have... I was very happy to see the other day Elodie Young saying, oh, I want to come back as Elektra. I'm like, you should.
Man, I mean, you were just saying don't bring people back to life.
But they already brought her back to life.
But didn't she die again at the end of Defenders? She got crushed under the same building Matt did.
Well, if Matt made it out, though. I think he'll bring people back to life, but resurrection is inherent in that character.
I know.
Look, I think Foggy can be dead. I think other people maybe have to come back. Look, I'm a hypocrite. Whatever.
Ben Urich's rotted fist punches through the earth.
There's a character who should stay dead. And that's why I like the BB Urich thing, and especially like when you have Wilson Fisk talking to her, and I'm just sitting there going, oh, you killed her dad.
Well, and the reveal later in the season when you're like, why do you think I'm doing this? She's known the whole time that this was the main suspect in her dad's murder.
No, dummy. That's the daughter of Ben Urich. She's a good reporter, too. And that also leads to talk about Prime Show royalty, Michael Gandolfini.
Yeah, I was... I don't know. I've not seen the Sopranos movie where he is playing...
Many Saints of Newark, very good.
I know this kid has made his bones and some other stuff here and there. I thought he was fine.
Yeah, he's really good. Certainly you see him and you're like, holy shit, that he's his dad.
That's the spooky
very
part.
Similar. The last shot of him when they're showing all the characters at the end of the season is very Tony Soprano, where he's just sort of like staring intently out a window, and you're like, oh man, that's
while sitting in the Kingpin's seat.
Yeah. Because
he's not playing a character from the comics. He's playing just like some up and coming kid,
right? Who is the protege of the? I love the scene when he has to tell him about when he fucked up, and he like thinks he's gonna get fired or whatever, and then Kingpin is just like, loyalty is in short supply these days.
Yeah,
but like
meanwhile, Kingpin's hand is on his neck.
Yeah, we're gonna let this one slide, but like. The Kingpin does see some level of himself in him, but also, me knowing gangster stories, that often ends in some sort of violent confrontation, right? Because
did we not just see that season of The Penguin?
Yeah, exactly, right? It is sort of like, because, by the end of this season, he's deputy mayor. So he's on his ascent, but like, you don't come for the king.
Right. Yeah.
You're fine as long as you're still under the thumb of that guy.
And is somebody who is like reaching for power ever going to be satisfied with what they have?
Right. Another character who I think I'm glad they didn't bring back because he did die, but they do have him just have a new Wesley.
Yeah. It was Artie Frauchen who plays Buck.
Buck, yeah.
Buck Cashman. It's just like,
Buck
well, that's
Cashman.
just a villain's name, isn't it?
Yeah, I had to look. I don't think that character is from the comics, but God, that name sounds like a Marvel Comics name, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah,
he is
yeah.
from the comics. He is from the
Is he?
comics.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
Kingpin has had any number of like hench goons over the years.
Yeah, I don't think he's a particularly... He doesn't look the same in the comics. But yeah, he is one of many. But Wesley is the right-hand man to... his supervillain name is Bullet.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Man, when was he in the comics?
I know this guy mostly from Carnival Row, which is a absolutely me show.
Yeah, that's a Mike Gergoni series, if ever there was one.
There's a world and there's lore. Tell me more.
Yeah, I was like, a little too much lore for me. Because it was kind of trying to be like fantasy noir, but a little hard on the fantasy maybe for me to get into it.
Could have gone harder. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you're like, not enough. Anyway, he's good. It's just sort of like it's just a thing where it's like you can almost feel in the writers' room them being like, oh, we need like a guy. We need like a guy to be king.
And they were too cowardly to have the enforcers.
Well, now that would be something, wouldn't it?
I need a guy with a bullwhip.
Yeah. Get the cowboy hat. Was it Tex? Is that his name? Something like that?
I don't remember. The enforcers are a big, strong guy, a smarmy guy with a gun, and a cowboy with a bullwhip.
Yeah, I just love the idea about, like, we all have our thing. I love the idea of criminals that have a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta have a thing, man. I mean,
they showed up briefly in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
They did, and I was that's where they belong. They're perfect in that. They fit that world very well. They're very cartoonish. So, I mean, I feel like if they did the Enforcers, they would be different in live action. It'd be a Southern guy and like a big. I mean, you could do. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of them right now. The comics have done more toned down versions of them, where it's like the guy's outfit, is a cowboy hat and then he's in a suit,
Right. I mean, I think the version that's most iconic for me is they were constantly showing up in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were pretty toned down in that.
Like I went back a while back and was reading Spider-Man from the beginning, and they show up and they're just at their, of course, most insane in Lee Ditko's Spider-Man. And you're just like, my God, he is just, how y'all doing? I'm a cowboy and I'm a big dumb guy, So anyway. So he's good. Let's talk about Mike. Well, okay, who do I want to? Well, because we've got it's interesting. You are right about, like, it does feel like they found a way to design this thing so that it does sort of bookend, right, with like Bullseye and Karen. Yeah. Which is just the nature of what they were forced to do. I think they made it work to their advantage really well. But like it does for most of the season, we have all these other side characters, whether that be Kirsten McDuffie or Heather Glenn, who becomes, of course, Daredevil's love interest. And I gotta say, that character has continued to surprise me with, like, I don't really know what is up with her. Heather.
Well, John, she's broken the cardinal rule of you don't become a paramour of Matt Murdock, or else bad things happen to you.
It's true, but I like the way that they also tie her into coincidentally being connected to Kingpin.
Is it a coincidence?
Well, that we don't really know. And then by the end of the season, she seems to, seemingly on the surface, have accepted a deal with the Kingpin.
The same is true for that other, like, mayoral deputy played by Sabrina Bovera, Sheila.
Man, her being devastated about because she set the commissioner up for death.
Yeah, yeah.
You watch. She's really the character who you see continue to be corrupted moment by moment by moment. Guys, like Gandolfini's character is down for shady shit from the start. You know, right?
He's like, hey, Buck is like, he bought into this being like, well, I'm the guy who has to shoot people occasionally.
Right, yeah, that's my thing.
But Sheila is coming from like this, like, well, I'm a representative of the establishment and the government and like how things are done, and then it's slowly corrupted.
She's the adult in the room, right, is sort of the thing with her, right? And then it's just, it just continues to just say, I've seen this actress in a million things. She's
when you see her reacting to playing the recording she made of the police commissioner, you're just like, oh no, you have fallen.
Yeah. And then I love the whole thing where he goes on TV is like, he abandoned you. Your commissioner left this city. Doesn't that suck? Don't you hate him? I didn't smash his head open like a watermelon.
I didn't go full Gallagher on his ass.
Yeah. Oh, another great Kingpin moment, of course, is having the guy locked up in the cage when he gives him the axe, and it's worthless. He gives the guy the axe to fight him, and Kingpin knocks that axe out of his hand instantly. And I did read a thing that was supposed to be in the script. It was a baseball bat, and it was D'Onofrio who said, "No, it should be an axe."
That's so much better.
Yeah, it is. It is. He's right. Good note. You know?
Yeah. It's like, it couldn't be a sword. That's too ridiculous. But like a fire axe is perfect.
I love how much D'Onofrio loves being on this show in every interview because he's like classically trained theater guy, right? And so you would think he'd be like, comic book show, but he fucking loves being Kingpin. And he's very clear about like, I want to do this forever.
Speaking of swords, can we just say we got Tony Dalton back?
Swordsman! And he's great. And I love him being kind of the representation of the old money elite of New York.
That was one of those perfect things that Marvel can do when they cross-pollinate between their shows, where it's like, okay, this character who was totally enjoyable in Hawkeye, but like, if we're playing in the same pool of New York, Marvel New York, where can we like pull little tidbits here and there? And like, I think him being in here for a couple of episodes is fucking great. I'm sad to see him in a cage at the end of the season.
But it makes so much sense because it is like every time he looks down on this guy, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, I love that scene when he goes to that first fancy party and they're all just like, we know you're gutter trash. You can become mayor, but we're the rich elite. You don't matter. I know where you came from, Wilson Fisk. And then to just watch that power dynamic shift until by the end they're kissing the ring, and then eventually they're literally caged up.
Yeah.
And it's
but also having Kamala Khan's dad show up for the bank heist episode.
Oh, by the way, I know there were a couple. I saw some people who didn't like that episode. I thought that episode was great. That really feels like a standalone issue in the middle of a run or something like that.
I have very mixed feelings about shows that feel more like a movie that they've chunked up, right? Like, I much prefer an episodic style of television that really doesn't exist a lot anymore.
Well, I mean, outside of network.
Sure.
I mean, I would say it depends. If it's done well, it's done well. If not, there does seem to be... I know Marvel is... A big thing is they're trying to make TV that feels more like TV.
It was one of the things I liked so much about She-Hulk, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I can throw on an episode of She-Hulk and watch it independently of the rest of the show and have a good time. If I want to watch the Daredevil episode of She-Hulk, I can without doing like a full rewatch. And it feels less... Because there are certain shows where it's like, I feel like to give credit to the narrative of the show, I need to indulge myself in a whole season's worth to like watch the whole thing all in one go. That's not the case for certain TV shows, but I would not say it's even close to the majority these days.
Certainly not in the streaming realm.
It's easier with things like Star Trek, right? Because that's kind of built into the premise.
Right. And actually, the interesting thing about Star Trek, of course, is that they have some shows that are more episodic and some shows that are more serialized. Picard was very serialized. Strange New Worlds is very episodic. And I think that's good. I think there's a mixture of those things. Because I certainly, probably the most of the shows I really like are more, serialized. Bosch has got a whole season-long mystery or something like that.
But so for this show to have that like one episode break felt refreshing to me.
I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And they gave you, that was when they aired 2 episodes. So then you got back to the Muse stuff in the next episode.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a thing. But I thought that was great. And I thought, give me Daredevil in a bank heist. And I thought Cox was so fun in that episode. The way he was playing up his blindness, and then he would turn around. And that also has that amazing moment when he jumps on that guy's legs and just destroys them.
I mean, that episode did feel like a thing that was maybe filmed in the first iteration of this show.
I think it was, yeah. I think it was. But that's another, like you talk about, the fun thing of the shared universe is like, oh yeah, if he goes into a bank, he might run into Kamala Khan's very proud father. Love the way he's like, hey, do you know Miss Marvel? She's great. Yeah. Look at the pop vinyl.
That's the New Jersey superhero.
Yeah, she's in Jersey. I do like the way Matt is like, Jersey City, huh? Yeah, okay. Like,
it's better than Hoboken.
Yeah. And of course, the thing about, she's in California visiting friends, which of course makes people like you and I go, what now? Which friends are those?
California, you say? Some kind of West Coast of some sort?
Could be a West Coast Young Avenger Champions thing.
Where did we leave Kate Bishop off?
She was recruited by Kamala.
Right, but like when we see her in the Marvels, it's at her apartment in New York, right?
Yeah.
So who's on the West Coast? I guess Cassie Lang?
Yeah, Cassie Lang is on the West. They're in San Francisco. So that could be. Isn't Wiccan out there too?
I mean, because he's in Westview's in New Jersey.
That's right. So he is in New Jersey. So it's Cassie.
Yeah. But we'll see.
He's visiting staff.
It's clear they're in the background. We're building some Young Avengers stuff, and I am
disappointed by some contractual stuff that has come out. Though, if you read D'Onofrio going, "Oh yeah, I'm not legally allowed to be in any of the movies."
Is this a Spider-Man thing?
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the Spider-Man of it all, because one of the things I see online a lot is just like, okay, Daredevil's building this army. How sad is it that Spider-Man's never going to be a part of it?
He just can't be. Yeah, and then Kingpin can't be in a. Well, no, Kingpin can be. I think Kingpin can be in a Spider-Man movie, but he can't be in a non-Marvel. Or I don't know exactly what the deal with it is. But D'Onofrio is being like, I can't be in one of the movies.
What I read was that like D'Onofrio Kingpin can't be in a Spider-Man movie.
That's it. They could cast a new Kingpin, which they should.
If they do cast D'Onofrio, they can't acknowledge anything else he's done. This has to be effectively a new character.
I think that's because like Charlie Cox is in Spider-Man No Way Home, but not in a way where he says I'm Daredevil or references the show.
Right.
So he's just like, I'm a lawyer named Matt who wears red glasses.
I'm a very good lawyer.
Yeah. So it's just like,
I catch a brick and it's cool.
Can Peter just be like, hey, it's that big-boned gangster man.
We've got Wilson Fisk at home.
Yeah. He's a problem. I hope a different red costume superhero fights him.
Some kind of Emperor Needle.
Sony, even if they don't make movies, find some way to fuck us over, don't they? That thing is just always going to be a thorn in our side.
Yeah, because like you want the red on red, right? Like you want Spider-Man and Daredevil. Because
I've seen so much fan art of the two of them fighting D'Onofrio Kingpin, and it's all like it's all we want. I mean, they could, if they really were determined to do it, they could negotiate some kind of specific deal, right? But I'm not sure anyone's that motivated.
But the dynamic is always like, okay, the Punisher Daredevil relationship is kind of reversed in the Daredevil Spider-Man relationship, right?
Now he's the grim, violent guy.
Right, and Spider-Man is the naive one looking for some kind of light in the darkness.
It's also a bummer that we probably can't ever get Punisher and Spider-Man together, even though, of course, Punisher started as a Spider-Man character.
That's always strikes me as weird. I've read Punisher's first appearance as a Spider-Man villain, and it's so weird that that character becomes Punisher.
He became too sympathetic. And the writer was like, I don't know, this guy's making some valid points. Not sure he's a villain.
He's a clear reaction to Rambo, right? Like,
well, more reaction to Bronson and Death Wish.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, that whole Vietnam,
it's all in the same soup, yeah.
Rolling Thunder, all those movies the coming home, and everything has gone to shit. You know, I mean, there is always a thing with those movies where I'm like, people look at them now and go like, my God, these are like fascist fantasies. I'm like, that's not an invalid take, but it is like, you have to keep in mind where the mindset of America was at that time, where it felt like it was so far the other way. It felt like, oh my God, we're losing this world to crime. And so characters like Dirty Harry and Paul Kersey in the Death Wish movies were like, yeah, we need that. We're not thinking about the consequences of that. And I always talk about those movies also don't take place in worlds where there are consequences. There are super evil guys who have to be dealt with by dudes with big guns. Right, so it's sort of a one-to-one thing where I'm like, I can accept those movies because they're fantasies unto themselves. The crime is also a fantasy.
Yeah, and that's where this show sort of begins to blur that line a little bit, because, like, okay, the fantasy of this show is Daredevil go beat up Kingpin, but Kingpin is mayor, so that automatically introduces this element of realism that deflates your ability to do Daredevil beat up Kingpin.
The episode where he's looking up at Fisk in the tower and he's looking down at Matt as the news of him winning, and it's just this, like, bomb drop. But also this moment of like, I see you. Yeah, but yeah, this sort of thing, like he has now become the institution.
Yeah. So this inherently becomes a show about like struggling against systems in a more realistic way, but also having a guy in a devil suit punching people.
But that's sort of the thing, is it's sort of going like, all right, if the system is going to be, you know, absurdly corrupt, then we need a guy in a devil suit. Like, that's the permission Matt is like, the only way to stop this is to be even more insane than the thing, right? It's like the city needs its Daredevil. Mm-hmm. And that's I love that whole thing I mean, the great scene with Frank, which I think I was talking to you when the first episode with him, where they have that conversation in Punisher's bunker, and you're like, oh boy, it's a bad look when Frank is the voice of reason. Because I mean, he kind of gets to your point about the like, what are you doing? You keep taking off the costume. What you think that's gonna make you a normal person? You still have all the impulse to do that.
Yeah, man, that scene's so good.
Once again, the coldest of takes, Bernthal is a fucking amazing actor.
He's having a hot year too.
Yeah, he's real. I mean, that guy is just one of my absolute favorite actors.
Because he's in The Amateur, he's in The Accountant too, and he's in this. I've heard good things about The Amateur. I don't know about The Accountant too.
Well, I've heard great things about The Accountant too. It played at South by Southwest. No surprise, I was a massive fan of the first Accountant, which he's also in. But this one is really being set up as an Affleck Bernthal two-hander.
I mean, I don't hate the idea of the two of them on screen together, so.
Not bad. The poster is just them both holding machine guns. And he's filming Chris Nolan's The Odyssey right now. He's in that.
Who's not in The Odyssey?
Yeah, that cast is insane. That cast is unbelievable.
Name an actor. They're probably in Chris Nolan's The Odyssey.
I do like, though, he's been sporting the look. He's got a shaved head, but a huge beard is his look in The Odyssey.
Good. Like a Greek should.
I'm all for that. Yeah. And then I guess he's got some other like detective show that he's doing called His and Hers with him and Tessa Thompson. So I'll watch that.
Like a fun matchup.
Yeah, I'll take it. So that guy is just the best. And obviously Charlie Cox is amazing. And I feel like a lot of these guys, we kind of take for granted to a certain extent, because it is just like, well, he's Daredevil, he's the main guy. And so in some ways, weirdly, the main guy, you're just kind of like, yeah, no, he's good, because the show, like, if the show's good, then the main guy's good. But I did see somebody the other day, and I think this is true, where it's like, honestly, Charlie Cox has now reached Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, where he's inseparable from the character. Like, I can't fathom somebody else playing it.
First season of Daredevil came out in 2015. The guy's been playing Matt Murdock for a decade now.
Yeah.
He's right up there with Jackman as Wolverine and RDJ as Iron Man. Of just like, it would be so wild. Yeah. If they changed this character to a different actor at this point.
And I think obviously Marvel knew that. And so it was just like they just bided their time until that contract ran out. And then they're like, come on over. I mean, it was very clear that they were just like, we have no intention of doing anything else with Daredevil. They nailed that. And particularly the casting of both him and D'Onofrio. You have to. Because I think both of them have that ownership. The idea of anyone else playing Wilson Fisk seems completely insane to me.
In live action, for sure.
Of course, in live action. Because I do love Liev Schreiber's voice performance in Into the Spider-Verse. Just the way he goes, kill that guy.
So good.
Kill that guy. It's just like perfect. Yeah, because he does a different thing with it, right? Where he does the intense this. I like Liev Schreiber's like, I'm the kingpin. I'm a gangster guy, and just once again, we have to wait another 2 years for the Spider-Verse. Come on.
Yeah, they pushed it back again. Look, it's gonna look amazing. It's gonna be great.
I know.
It'll be here eventually.
I'm not worried about the quality. I just want to see it. We should have already seen it a year ago, as people love to say. I saw somebody the other day going, this is the 1 year anniversary of when I should have seen Across the Spider-Verse. Or what is it? Beyond the Spider-Verse?
Beyond the Spider-Verse, yeah.
Beyond the Spider-Verse is the third one, yeah. And I saw, because she's out promoting Sinners, Haley Steinfeld, and she was just like, they tell me they're working on it.
I'm sure she's already recorded all of her voice.
Yeah, no, she's basically like, look, I can only tell you that people are animating right now. Yeah. The actors are the last people to find out about that stuff. Okay, anything else we want to talk about in this? I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where it's like it's just really good. Wilson Bethel, we haven't really touched on, but his Bullseye performance is amazing.
The fact that he uses a tooth to kill a guy was so good.
I mean, that's Bullseye. That's comic book Bullseye, right? Yeah, and the little bloody grin he gives right before he does it, he's like, because I think Bethel doesn't play. He subtly plays the madness, right? He doesn't play it as a cackling. He doesn't play it like Colin Farrell played it. Let me say that.
Yeah, but I think he's getting there.
It's there. It's bubbling under this. It's moments like that. I also love, and once again, Brendan Jones pointed this out, that the little look he gives after he shoots at Fisk and the bullet hits Matt of like, wait, what? Like the idea of a bullet I shot didn't go where I wanted it to go. He just gives a little yeah. It's not that he missed, and he would be the first. He'll be the first to tell you that I didn't miss. Matt got in the way.
Yeah, I just so want to see him with the mask with the bullseye on his forehead. Maybe that's my Brendan Jones leaking in.
Have you not seen the set photos from season
Is there? Okay, no, I haven't. But
we're out shooting season 2, and he's in a mask with a fucking bullseye on it.
Hell yeah!
And so then you haven't seen the Daredevil suit for season 2.
I think I saw a picture floating around of the black suit.
It's black and it's got the DD, the red DD.
He's got the big double Ds.
Yeah, he does. They're going all in. Yeah.
We haven't talked about Camar de los Reyes, who played White Tiger this season.
Oh, so good. So good. Talk about, and very sad we lost him in real life, too. Yeah. Right after he shot this. They talked about he was really not doing well while filming it, which is amazing. You got this performance out of him while he's actively dying.
Right. I mean, that's right up there with Chadwick Boseman in the Avengers films, right? Yeah.
But talk about a guy who's only in a couple episodes, but really makes an impression because his death is such a motivating factor throughout the season, and obviously clearly setting up his niece to become the next White Tiger. She'll be joining that army. That's seeded throughout. but he makes such an impression as this guy who, you know, is the representation of you know, Matt if he didn't keep quitting being Daredevil, right? Here's a guy who's just like, I have to do this. Yeah, I can make a difference, and you know, even if it means my own death, which it does eventually, and it's heartbreaking when he gets shot.
Oh, when it cuts to black and it's just the sound of the frogs that he was describing earlier that episode. It's just like,
it's a gut punch of an ending, man. It really is. And you like, you can kind of feel it coming, but you're still like, no.
Yeah. I love, this is, again, I've said this before, but we're at the point in the MCU project where Matt Murdock in a courtroom can say, and without his mystical amulet, he would have no powers.
I think it's really interesting that they never show the amulets like being mystical, but we just go like, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like we're in the Marvel universe. We're like, I don't know, that guy's got mystical amulets, that guy's got spider powers, that guy's, you know.
Yeah. We just got to accept it, and like that's the blasé nature of a superhero universe, and I love that shit.
It's from the Captain America Civil War, where Falcon has the line about, I don't know, everybody's got a gimmick. When they first see Spider-Man, and Bucky's just like, what is this guy? And he's like, everybody's got a gimmick now, everybody's something, Jesus.
We got a guy that jumps, we got a guy that shrinks, we got a guy that crawls on the walls.
All that stuff is I just love. Like I love, once again, when Punisher steps out of the shadows and all the cops see him, they're like, oh, it's the Punisher! Like, once again, when they just acknowledge, I've talked about that in Brave New World as well, where all the bad guys are like, oh shit, it's Captain America! Like, that all the superheroes are known. The whole idea that they're doing news reports about, like, you know, these vigilantes, White Tiger and the Swordsman, and they just talk about, like, just casually, they're talking about, like, hey, you know, there's like a bunch of masked guys running around fighting crime. It's just the world.
Like, the lack of anyone saying Spider-Man hurts a little bit when you're talking about New Yorkers, because like Spider-Man's supposed to be their guy.
A lot of people are talking about, why aren't they mentioning Luke Cage? Why aren't they mentioning Iron Fist?
Because they're not yet, and like because they don't know how successful this is going to be, right?
Yeah, I think that's a thing. I also saw a lot of people really disappointed that we didn't see them at the end of the season when he's putting his army together. That instead but it's like they chose to do an ending that ended this season, not the universe as a whole, right? So we check in with all the characters of this season instead of going like, and next season you'll see these people. And also it probably is a thing about like, well, they don't have a deal with Kristen Ritter yet when they're filming that or something, you know?
Right. I will say the end of this season to me felt, I don't know, like it didn't feel like an ending, right? And it's not, because it is just like, and this fight will continue kind of an ending.
Something I remember when they first announced this, they said we're going to make 18 episodes of this. And so this is 9. So the showrunners talk about this is really part 1 of a 2-part story.
It definitely feels that way.
Yeah, this is the halfway point of what they're doing. The second season will be telling a different story because it's the thing, but it is the second half of what started here. Although there will be more of it, because according to, I just saw one of the top guys at Marvel going like, yeah, well, season 2 comes out next year, then we'll make season 3, and then season Infinity. Because we want to do Daredevil for as long as we can do Daredevil.
Until we break Charlie Cox as a human.
Till he's 90. I did see somebody put up a picture of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and then the till you're 90.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure the performances we get of them as Professor X and Magneto in Doomsday have to be the passing of the torch. Like, right?
I just want to point out too, that's the 4th time I think we've said that, so I'm not saying anything.
I know. Okay, fair enough.
Anything anymore. Every time Patrick Stewart is showed back, people point out he's died 3 times as this character.
All right. Yeah, you know what?
Patrick Stewart is probably like, really? I thought I was done. Are you kidding me? Okay. Sure. Let me see that check again. All right. Sure. Yeah.
I thought the second time was a pretty good period on the whole paragraph here.
I was like, oh, yeah, well, Logan, that has to be the end. And then you're like, oh, well, you know, I guess if it's an alternate reality, and then you're just like, oh, fuck it, he's back, and why not?
At this point, do we want to see him in the full black spandex with the helmet from the Krakoan era?
Oh fuck, that'd be no. I mean, he's in great shape for a dude his age, but I mean, honestly, we got My Dream, which was him in the yellow wheelchair, right? Which
Sure,
was that was everything to me. You know, I do want McKellen in that big silly helmet though.
Hell yeah, same.
Yeah. Because
I want to see him in the costume from X-Men '97 with the opera gloves and the big M on his chest.
Oh, that'd be rad. That'd be rad. And if anybody could sell that, it would be McKellen. He could make that work.
I'm saying.
That poor like 90-year-old man. They're gonna put him up on wires again, and Jesus.
No, it'll all be CG. There'll be a stand-in with green dots on their face.
Yeah, he's 85. He's not quite 90 as of yet. So he's a youngster. I did see him talking about though that because he's coming back with this fucking Gollum movies. But he's like, they better make those fast. I'm not a young man anymore. Anyway,
yikes!
Yeah,
let's confront mortality with Ian McKellen.
Hurry up!
I mean, honestly, we've heard like what happened on the set of The Hobbit with Christopher Lee, right? Like,
yeah,
he was on the way out the door when they were making those movies.
We talked about him on Meet the Monsters because he's in Dark Shadows and he's just sitting for his whole scene. He's still great. He's still got the voice and everything, but it is very clear they were like, I will sit and I will say the lines.
Yeah.
That guy was very old. He lived quite a while. Yeah, the best. And actually, we're still not fully sure he's dead because we know he's a vampire.
It's true.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else we want to say about Daredevil Born Again? I mean, it's really good. Deborah Ann Wall coming back at the end just reaffirms how much she's the heart of this show, and the idea that they were ever going to try to do it without her involvement is upsetting.
Seems insane in hindsight, yeah.
Because especially the way the finale does such a good job of her connection to Matt and Frank. She can see through both of these guys' bullshit, right? She is just the beating heart of the series, and so the idea that she's going to be a much bigger part of the next season is makes me happy.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, overall, like I said at the top of this, if you like the Netflix Daredevil stuff, which I do, this feels like just a solid continuation of that.
It is some of the best translation of comic to film, right? Like in terms of not necessarily adapting moment to moment things, but just this so feels like a Daredevil comic.
The essence of Daredevil suffuses this show in a way that few others manage to capture as fully.
And it's one of the few critical darlings of the Marvel Universe, right? It's one where even the critics are like, really fucking good. Like, the begrudging reviews of it going like, okay, yeah, the guy's in a devil suit, but this is actually really strong television. And I have seen a lot of just like, more of this, please. And actually, I do think not necessarily like the dark, violent noir aspects of it, but just the like you're talking about, the idea that you can feel it in this. They are trying to be more. This is a TV show. We are designing this not as a long movie, but as a television series, and that's apparently more the thinking Marvel Television is doing now.
Well, and you can see it in their recent string of successes, because honestly, the last few Marvel TV shows have all been incredibly strong, in my opinion, whether it be this or Agatha All Along. Like, and those are built around, like, we have these, like, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da rhythm story that is emblematic of television.
Agatha a really interesting example of doing a serialized story, but with an episodic mindset, right? It was one ongoing story, but every episode, obviously, because of the aesthetics of it and stuff, you were like, you can still go, it's this episode, this episode, this episode, even though they are chapters and something long. And actually, WandaVision had that too, to a certain extent.
Yep, exactly. Whereas I think something like Falcon and Winter Soldier feels like more of a continuous, like, and this is a movie that got broken up into 6 parts.
Which was also great, though. I mean, it's like that was awesome. And
Loki felt kind of the same way.
Yeah, they did. They had some one-offs, but it was mostly, or at least they had some episodes you could still identify as like it's that one, even if it's one long storyline.
Season 2 definitely felt more like episodic in its nature.
Definitely. So yeah, we got Ironheart upcoming from them, and Wonder Man, which I hear is more in the vein of She-Hulk. It's more of a comedy. I think those are going to be half-hour episodes.
I can't wait because, like,
I'm
I know
excited for that.
I maybe slobber over She-Hulk a little too much on this show, but like, I
certainly enjoyed it.
I just feel like it gets this this hyperbolic amount of hate online, right? And every time I see somebody online being like, "Hey, I watched She-Hulk and it was pretty good. Why are people giving it all this hate?" And like, that's everyone's reaction when they actually give it a chance.
Well, I think we've talked about, I don't think Marvel's made anything that deserves hate. Not all of it's been great, but I don't think they've made anything that's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and anyone who is like saying, "Oh, worst movie ever," hasn't seen bad movies.
No. Yeah. There's a lot worse shows than Secret Invasion, you guys. A lot worse.
I will say Secret Invasion still rubs me the wrong way, but that's just because I think they didn't do a lot of the groundwork that a show like that required.
Maybe, but I still enjoyed a lot of it.
And the fact that it's like completely unacknowledged in the subsequent thing that Nick Fury is in kind of irked me, but that's just me.
But hey, that's just me.
Look, well, we all have our Brendan Jones foibles, as we call them here.
Yeah, of course. Some things just irk people. It's all right. People, maybe he gets irked more than others, but everybody.
He's a regular Urkel, that's for sure.
He would love that. Anyway, well, that being said, if you want more from us, there is more to be had over on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/punchup and punchupent. There you get cool exclusive bonus shows from all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, including this one, including Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, Material Components, and the IP Squad, which is coming back at the end of this week. If you're listening to when this one is coming out, we'll be starting our video game adaptation season. Gorgoni, you're in a lot of that, so you're definitely going to want to check that out, folks.
For my sins, I have been shackled to the consoles to which I have given much of my life, John, and by such an extension I am dragged unwilling to the chains like Prometheus, my liver plucked from my body in the form of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
That's right. That's what we're kicking off with this Friday. Once again, if you're listening to this when it came out. If not, just go check it out. There's probably a few episodes out. But Gorgoni, where can people check that out, actually, as we mentioned that?
On YouTube, John. That's youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. And there you can see all of the shows from the Punch Up Entertainment Network and some shows that you can't even listen to anywhere else, like Panel Up or Punch Up Plays, where Elliot Lewis and I are making our way through the Mass Effect franchise currently. And, of course, video versions of all of our shows, including this one you're listening to right now. Maybe you're seeing our beautiful faces as we talk about Daredevil. Or most of the time you're seeing us talk about Star Wars comics, and you can read along with those comics while you're at it because we can show them to you via the magic of moving pictures.
Yeah.
And while you're there, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know in the comments below if on this episode, what were your favorite or least favorite parts, because negativity encourages engagement of Daredevil Born Again.
That's what they keep telling us.
Yeah, but we're not going to bow to their whims.
No, well, I think it's very hard to be too negative about this show.
Yeah. I concur. This show was pretty good.
Pretty good. All right. Well, as I said, I think next month we'll definitely be talking some Thunderbolts, some Andor.
That's our Naughty Boys episode. I'm calling it right now. We're calling it Naughty Boys.
Naughty Boys. Naughty boys. And girls. We put in parentheses and girls. Naughty boys.
The girls can also be naughty boys.
Oh, yeah.
It is not for me to judge.
Yeah. All right, but I think that's going to do it. I'm John Campbell.
And as always, I am Mike Gorgoni.
Till next month, we're going to panel down.